It's Saturday, October 3rd, slightly overcast, great day for harvesting, which is good because today's harvest day at Viani Vineyard. Viani Vineyard is a 3-acre Barbera vineyard on Pilot Hill down in El Dorado County. We'll be pulling up there in just a moment.
Hi, my name's Steve Viani. I'm the owner of Viani Vineyards. We have 5 acres of Italian Barbera. My family is from Italy, and we grow Barbera and other grapes in Tuscany. And we decided this would be a good place to plant Barbera and start a vineyard that specializes in Italian varietals. The clone is a Rochedo CVT 171 on a 110R rootstock. They were planted in 1999, and they're about 12 years old now. We get 4 to 5 tons per acre, and really like the way the wine turns out.
How's the harvest this year?
Harvest this year was pretty good. We started out here in 2010 a little bit later than normal, but because of the coolness. But as things went, the heat came, and we really are only about a week or 2 behind. And if this weather holds, which it will, harvest is going to go great, and we're going to have a great year.
So here we are with 6 bins of 2010 Barbera. This was actually picked last night. About an hour from now, it'll be back home and being turned into very tasty wine. Okay, we've safely delivered 3 tons of 2010 Barbera back to the winery, and we are just about ready to go. Hey, let's introduce ourselves to everybody in Mark Henry's neighborhood today. There's a couple of hardy souls.
It's Tom.
Tom and Michelle Rogers.
Tom and Michelle Rogers. So you guys here for any particular reason?
To help.
Oh man, you've got gloves on.
Get dirty.
Look at that. Yeah, and an appropriate shirt. Excellent. We're going to be getting started here in just a moment. Who we got over here?
Go ahead,
Jennifer.
Jennifer.
Hunter.
Jennifer Hunter.
Janelle Miller.
And Janelle Miller.
Josh Love.
And Josh Love. Excellent. Are you guys here to help too, or are you guys just here to drink wine?
Wine.
Yeah. You know what?
For a little.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for too. It's just to drink wine. So we're going to get started here in just a moment. We're going to be shoveling Barbera into the hopper here, just like we did with the Primitivo a few days ago. Grapes are going to go through that tube and into those 2 bins. We're crushing 3 tons today, so we'll fill 2 large bins today. We'll be back shortly.
This is always the, is it actually going to work when I turn it on?
You ready, Jennifer?
Splat.
There it is. Welcome back. It's Wednesday morning, October 5th. On Sunday, we crushed about 3 tons of Barbera into these 2 bins. It's been overcast and moderately cool the last couple of days, which is just fine because we need a little bit of cool weather right after crush to give the grapes some time to, the crushed grapes time to just sit and do a little bit of extracting of colors and flavors from out of the berries before fermentation actually starts. And that's best done in a fairly cool environment, around 55 to 60 degrees. We did inoculate this with a wine yeast yesterday though, so now it's time to see where we're at. See if the wine yeast has started to ferment. We'll take some measurements. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's definitely getting going here. I'll bring you in a little bit closer so you can see what I'm talking about here. It almost looks like a little volcano starting right there, doesn't it? That's where the yeast is starting to create CO2, and it's pushing up through the skins, which is called the cap. We'll be pushing that back down into the fermentation here relatively soon. It's Tuesday night, October 5th. We inoculated our Barbera with a wine yeast yesterday, and fermentation is well underway. And one of the things that happens during fermentation, besides the conversion of sugar into ethanol alcohol, is that a lot of CO2 gas is created. That CO2 gas has an effect of pushing the skins up to the top of the fermentation, and it ends up sitting on top almost like a cap. Well, we don't really want the skins up here. We want the skins down in here. Those skins, they contain color pigments, they contain flavors that we want to have in the wine. They contain tannins. You know how much at Montoliva Vineyard Winery we like a nice, mildly tannic wine. So one of the things that we have to do is we have to push those skins back down into the fermentation 2 or 3 times a day. And we do that using this guy. This is a punch down tool. So 2 or 3 times a day, I'll climb up onto the fermenter like this and push the skins back down into the fermentation. Now, as fermentation really proceeds, this gets harder and harder. In fact, this is almost like an exercise video. I sometimes think I ought to make a video, you know, kind of punch it down a couple of times and then break into song. I don't know, something like YMCA, and then punch down a few more times. Think I'd sell a few million of those? So I'll be doing this for about 10 or 15 minutes, getting things well mixed up, and then I'll take another sample reading of the temperature and of the sugar levels. Good morning. It's Thursday, October 7th, day 4 since we first crushed the 2010 Barbera. Today's episode is titled, How is Winemaking Like Playing Pac-Man? At this juncture of the fermentation, things are going along well. The yeast is really doing a nice job. Now it's time to ensure good quality yeast health. Now, one of the ways that we do that is by ensuring that the yeast gets everything that it wants. Because if yeast doesn't get everything it wants, it has a terrible tendency to do things like create hydrogen sulfide. And rotten eggs, not an aroma typically associated with good wine. So how do we ensure that we keep the yeast happy? Well, think of it sort of like a Pac-Man game. You know, as that little yellow guy is going along eating things, every once in a while there's this fruit, right? And when he eats that fruit, it makes him bigger, stronger, faster. Well, oxygen is to yeast as those little fruit are to Mr. Pac-Man. So today, we're going to give our yeast some oxygen. We do that by pulling the juice inside the fermentation out and pumping it through a venturi, which injects oxygen into the juice as it's flowing through the pump. And then we're going to pump that back into the fermentation. Now we're going to accomplish a few things at one time here. We're not only going to inject some oxygen into the fermentation, we're also going to essentially do a pump over that will help push the cap back down into the fermentation. So we're all ready to go here. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the pump. This is basically a funnel in here with a sieve, so it filters out all of the skins and only pumps out juice. We're going to do this for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then we'll do our twice a day reading of sugar levels and temperature.